Well, good afternoon. I'm Robert Sumwalt, and I'm the chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board. And joining us today, we have the vice chairman of the board, Vice Chairman Bruce Landsberg, and the investigator in charge, Pete Katowski. Yesterday was really a travel day for us at the NTSB. We had investigators traveling in from as far away as Seattle, Denver, of course, Washington, and a few other locations. So today is really the first full day of boots on the ground for our investigative team. This morning we held our investigative organizational meeting, and that's where we establish our investigative protocols and designate parties to the NTSB's investigation. Now, the NTSB investigates those organizations that can provide technical expertise to our investigation. We designate those organizations as parties to the investigation. And at this point, the parties to the investigation are the New York State Police and the New York Department of Transportation. As I mentioned yesterday, our investigation is separate and apart from the New York State Police's investigation. They're conducting their investigation as they do for any fatal highway crash, and we are conducting our safety investigation. So they really are distinct, but we are working together and sharing information on those areas that would be of common interest. We've had several briefings with the New York State Police leadership to discuss our processes and to discuss best ways to work together so that we're not encroaching in on their investigation. And we certainly appreciate their cooperation and assistance and coordination going along. Our teams are examining several different areas. We break our investigations into several disciplines. As far as the operator, we have a group looking at the operator, and when I refer to the operator, I mean the motor carrier, the limousine company. We have had an initial meeting with the limousine company, and as the major indicated, operations of the driver and the motor carrier, the actual operations of it. We're looking at the limousine operator's compliance with applicable state and federal regulations. We'll also look at the oversight, the actual oversight by the state and federal oversight authorities, agencies, the company's safety culture, the company's records of prior crashes, their management of drivers, their fatigue management program, vehicle maintenance, driver fitness for duty. We want to look at everything that we can related to the company that operated that limousine. The vehicle itself, of course, we are interested in the mechanical condition of the vehicle, inspections of the vehicle subsystems, braking, steering, suspension systems, tires, making sure the right size tires are on there, the age of the tires. We're looking for any possible corrosion that may have existed in the vehicle, as well as any vehicle body and frame integrity. And of course, this vehicle, a 2001 Ford Expedition, started out life as a traditional Expedition, and then it was stretched. So we want to make sure that the vehicle, when it was converted, the conversion was conducted in accordance with federal regulations. Now, the seating configuration, the vehicle was configured for 19 seats. It had a driver seat and a front seat passenger seat, so two up front. Right behind that, there's a partition, and there would be a rear-facing seat. And then in the very rear of the vehicle, a forward-facing seat. And then down both sides would be bench seats with a bar located also on a bar and a door located on the right side of the vehicle. One of the things that we look at is to see whether or not the seating configuration may have contributed to the injuries. That's the type of thing that we typically look at. We've had questions as to whether or not the seats were equipped with seat belts. Some seats, we know at this time, some seats were equipped with lap shoulder belts. At this point, we're not sure if all seating positions were equipped with seat belts. And we are not sure at this point whether or not the seat belts were worn by anyone. Usually we can determine whether or not a seatbelt was worn by looking at the damage to the seatbelt itself. The webbing might be stretched, the attach points for the seatbelt, and the medical examination will oftentimes indicate whether or not a seatbelt was worn at the time of a collision. Now, in the state of New York, seatbelts are required to be worn in limousines. They are required to be worn by the driver and front seat passengers. They are not required to be worn by occupants in the rear of the vehicle. Our initial examination has indicated that some of the seats remained anchored to the floor. And the reason I say some of the seats is that as the vehicle is right now, when the emergency response crews are through getting the victims and the wrecker crew is ready to take the car has been cut open with the jaws of life, so it's not exactly in the configuration that it was at the time of impact. Furthermore, seats have been removed to extricate the victims. So after they're through with that, they just take all of that and place it back in the vehicle. And so it's not exactly like you can just look inside the car and say, oh, there's a seatbelt, there's one, because there are a lot of items that have been placed back in the vehicle. But over the next few days, we've secured a tent to place over the vehicle. And over the next few days, our investigators will get in there along with the New York State Police and start recreating this, removing that debris that has been placed back in it. As far as the damage to the limousine, just a visual examination would reveal that there's, of course, extensive damage to the front of the car, with more damage done to the left front of the car. But a lot of damage, intrusion, engine compartment pushed back into the front of the car. Certainly indications of high energy impact. Tomorrow, once the federal and state offices, once the federal offices reopen after today's holiday, we will be able to get in touch with the DOTs, the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, to get a more complete rundown on the motor carrier, the limousine company itself. Highway factors. We certainly want to look at the highway, the roadways. As you know, the roadway was Highway 30, coming down the hill, was reconfigured a few years ago from the current T configuration that it currently has. It used to be as you come down the hill, the road veered off to the left instead of the 90-degree angle that it intercepts 30A now. So we want to look at the roadway configuration. We want to look at the roadway conditions, the signage, the geometric design of the highway, lighting, traffic volume, any prior crash history that may involve that intersection. And we want to make sure that it complies with the design manuals. AASHTO is the design manual that roadways should be compliant with. We flew a drone today over the site, and we will compare the present roadway with the way the roadway was configured a few years ago. We will also be conducting additional drone measurements and scans tomorrow, and that will involve some lane closures tomorrow. The human performance. Yes, we are certainly interested in any driver medical fitness issues that may be there. We don't know if there are, but we will be looking into that. We'll be looking to see if fatigue may have been an issue. The toxicology results, they will be sent to the U.S. Department of Transportation's Civil Air Medical Institute in Oklahoma City, where they will look at over 1,000 different possible drugs that may be in someone's system. We're, of course, interested in the driver qualifications. We heard the major commenting on that earlier, and including any crash history or driving infractions. Emergency response, we are looking at the overall emergency response, and we want to thank the first responders, and we're in the process of obtaining the 911 records, call logs. Our investigators will be here probably about 5 days at this point. While they're here, they're not here to speculate. They're not here to determine the cause. What they are here to do at this point is to collect the perishable information, the information that can go away with the passage of time. And of course, our mission is not only to find out what happened. We know what happened. We know that a car apparently ran a stop sign and had a tragic result. So we're here not to find out just what happened, but why it happened. And our ultimate goal is to keep things like this from happening again. For the latest information, follow us on Twitter, which is our sign is at NTSB_newsroom. Or you can follow us at our website, ntsb.gov. In just a moment, I will call for questions, but once I do, what I'd like for you to do is raise your hand. When I call on you, please state your name and your affiliation. So I'll be glad to take your questions. Right here.
Mercedes Williams with Spectrum News. As far as you know, was that vehicle that the crash due to operator error?
The question is, as far as I know, was the crash due to operator error? And that would be speculation. And we want to get all the facts. And once we have the facts and we've carefully analyzed those, we will issue a probable cause. But at this point, we're here just to collect the factual information. There's a question right here.
Can you explain how that expedition was modified to people at home who are wondering how it's actually broken in half, stretched out, and then this could have had the same brakes as an SUV, not brakes for this large vehicle that would be able to sustain that brake going down that hill?
Thank you. Great question. Can we explain how the modification occurred? And Pete, can you take that one? Or all right, Pete Kotowski.
In the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, there's requirements about braking systems on vehicles. And that's one of the things that is open in this investigation. And as we spoke earlier about the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards will be examined in this case.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a question right here.
Thanks. Robert Gavin, Times Union in Albany. Mr. Chairman, you said there was certainly indicative of high energy impact. When you say that, what are you talking about?
Well, when we talk about high energy impact, what are we talking about? You can look at the crush damage throughout the vehicle to see that if an entire engine block is moved back and basically crushed, moved back past the driver's seat, that would indicate there was a lot of force and energy involved in that crash.
Speeding?
We didn't say speeding. We said energy. And kinetic energy is 1/2 mass times velocity squared, whatever that means. So it's a combination of the mass and the speed of the vehicle, which would create that type of damage. So one of the things that we hope to be able to determine is what the speed of the vehicle was at the collision, and I think we have the technology to do that. Let's see. There's a question right here.